It was.
I mean,
great.
we both did.
I didn't want to interrupt your flow and tell you that actually we're not live.
Done. We're live.
Are we?
Yep.
We are indeed live, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, for your LMGT3 challenge action. We did do a little bit of a broadcast. We needed somebody to start the broadcast. We are here and we are live. My name is Joseph Black, and alongside me I have Max Ring for this evening's action. As you can see, it is around Portimao, which is a very different circuit to the one that we had last week. 1 minute 40 left on the clock, and well, I guess it can be termed as pre-broadcast now, but we were talking about how potentially the drivers could get 2 laps in, around 6 minutes on the clock, and well, it's a very different challenge to Le Mans, Portimao being a lot shorter, but it looks like they're only going to get 1 opportunity, or at least they can back out of that first lap and go again. That appears to be what Remy Alexander Borgso, Sebastian Borgson, Adam Koszalski and Richard Cook have done, whereas the top few have gone in with solid lap times, and it's going to be, as with last week, Zoltan Vakonyi who takes that top spot. As I said, my name is Joseph Black. Alongside me is Max Ray.
Hello everybody, pleasure to be back. We did take a little test start at this, shall we say, in a sense, but no fault of our own. We had no control over what just happened. But we are here, as Joseph did say, in qualifying. And it's Vakonyi, even with that 40 kilos extra on the car, taking an early advantage in this stage of qualifying. Also, breaking news from the last round as well. I did mention this just a minute ago in the not so live stream, that Timmy Lettinen did actually lose out on his 2nd place in race 1 due to that contact he had with Zoltan Vakonyi, and does drop down to 5th there, but he still carries that 32 kilos of extra ballast due to him still having enough points to be the 2nd highest in the championship after that opening round, and scored the 2nd most points of the evening. Of course, if you score the most points in the top 5 most points of a round, you then carry some success ballast for the next one. If you carry on that streak, you then get 5 added on, and for Vakonyi, he is carrying on that form, so he could be up to 45 next week, but still all to play for as they're now heading through the final parts of their lap. Vakonyi, is he going to be up on this 2nd lap time? This will be it for his qualifying. It's all or nothing. Can he take back-to-back pole positions here in the Aston Martin? Across the line he will go now. Is it an improvement? No, just loses out on some time. Ramsey stays in 2nd. Lettinen moves himself into 3rd. 40, what can he do? He's 3 tenths off the current leading Aston Martin. Can he displace the other one? Yes, he can! Jordan 40 to the top of the times in the D-Station Racing Aston Martin, displacing championship leader Zoltan Vakonyi. Shankan only goes into 7th place, but Jordan 40 with an early advantage there, and I don't think anyone's going to be able to challenge that one here, Joseph. A brilliant lap time from the man with no ballast, showing how crucial having that less weight on the car around a circuit like Portimao really is in qualifying.
Yeah, we talked about how stable it could make you versus how unstable having the ballast is. And yeah, Jordan 40 there demonstrating exactly why we have that ballast, going up to the top and taking that pole position away as the checkered flag is waved now. And I believe that is everybody having completed their laps. We've got Mark Ferdinand Kerner across the line now with a 150, and Massimiliano Ferrari, who is stopped after the line. So those are the last 2 on the circuit. But yet, that is going to be Jordan 40 taking pole position for race 1. Zoltan Vakonyi alongside him, and Alistair Ramsey in 3rd place. So Vakonyi and Lettinen both have that ballast affecting them, and they are not in 1st and 2nd like they were so dominant last time out in Le Mans. Instead, they are 2nd and 4th, so a little bit further down the grid, but Portimao looks like it may well throw up a little bit of a challenge for the drivers, because now we have 1 minute 28 left to go before this race, and we will have our starting grid for this race, and we'll see if we can bring you them as they come. But for now, we know that Jordan 40 is going to be on that pole position.
40 from Vakonyi. It is 2 Aston Martins on that front row. Top 3 of Aston Martin, should I say, as Alistair Ramsey is in 3rd. But that really was all about the ballast, of course, for Connie. If he had that 40 kilos less, surely going to be taking that pole position. But it shows how crucial and how well this success ballast does work. Just to run you through the drivers that do have that little bit of success ballast on their motors. It is Zoltan Verkonyi on 40 kilos, Timmy Lettinen with 32, then it's Danny Moffat with 24, Shan Khan with 16, and then finally Hendrik de Vries with 8 kilos added on respectively. But still, a very strong qualifying from both Lettinen and Verkonyi, but really the race is where it matters. And with that extra ballast, an extra 40 kilos for Verkonyi and a 32 for Lettinen, surely, Joseph, we're going to see the understeer woes from the Mustang plague that little bit more and a bit more tyre wear on both cars. And that could eventually, say, come the end of the race, really bite them, because they could have quite a nice margin that then gets eaten into massively.
Yeah, 40 is going to be the bogey number, and the bogey word for Verkonyi as well, as Jordan took that pole position. And we'll see what they're able to do as they head over the crest and get ready for their laps and for their chase on race 1 here in Portimao in the LMGT3 Challenge at the Global Racing Drivers Club, brought to you by Driven Minds. Jordan 40 is taking us up to the line. He will get us underway. Not a very early stop on the line, not a very early line on the circuit, and it's all down to 40. He's going to leave it very late up to the line, as this is where they would line up on a grid. But of course they are having a rolling start, and so it is all down to the number 777 as to when we get started. Until about now, it's green flag racing here in Portimao, and Jordan 40 is going to lead the way into the first corner. Timmy Lettinen and Alistair Ramsey side by side for that third place, and we'll see what they're going to be able to do as they head up the hill now and towards the next corner on this racetrack. Who is going to come out on top? It appears to be that Alistair Ramsey's out on top of Lettinen, and Hendrik de Vries coming under pressure from Robert Pure, but they didn't quite scrap enough. Thomas Osborne getting the better of Jordan Biddle, but losing out to Shan Khan and trying to take that position, late braking into the next corner, and Osborne is back up ahead of Shan Khan. Of course, we saw him have a poor start, Shan Khan, in Le Mans in race 1. Race 2 was a lot better, but this time he finds himself dropping down. Brian Jalise is going to fight away. He's just behind Jordan Biddle after trying to take the opportunity of Biddle fighting with Osborne to try and make his way through, but instead Brian Jalise has found himself dropping down that position and settling for that 10th place at the moment. It's going to be Zoltan Verkonyi who leads the way. Jordan 40 in P2. So Verkonyi has actually taken that position off the race start. 40 in P2, and he's got a lot of work to do, but Verkonyi, the heavier car with all of that ballast, and you think that Jordan 40 and Alistair Ramsey sitting behind, if they don't fight each other, have an advantage.
They certainly will come that later stage of the race, but again, another dream start from Zoltan Verkonyi from that second place spot, and he really did take that opportunity with both hands, taking straight into the lead, because he knows he couldn't really wait his chance. He couldn't wait for that moment to arise like he did in Le Mans, and this is where it is so crucial. And now we see Lettinen, also another driver with ballast, pressuring the back of Alistair Ramsey, is looking to the inside. Does the Mustang go, but just has to stop back in before we reach that braking zone. Not close enough for a move this time around, but Lettinen still pushing on forwards. Still going to the inside now. There's some contact made with the Aston Martin. Can he displace the Aston Martin? 1, 2, 3. More contact on the corner exit between the pair. Ramsey on the inside, just getting the run he needs to just stay in front for now. He's going to aggressively defend that inside. Hendrik de Vries trying to pick up on any scraps he possibly can. Lettinen now around the outside into the hairpin of turn 5. Is it going to be enough for Lettinen? No, it is not. He's going to still try and have the drive through 6 this left-hander. Then 7 and 8, but it won't be enough, and Lettinen has to stay in 4th. Verkonyi at the moment is checked out in front. 2 seconds is that gap between the top 2, and Alistair Ramsey just following in tow on Jacob 40, but he's under relentless pressure from Timmy Lettinen, and Hendrik de Vries is just waiting in the wings. He wants any piece of this he possibly can. Of course, the lightest of the cars with success ballast, and he's still doing a very good job in 5th place.
Yeah, those up the top at the Mon are generally those who are the quickest, and we're seeing it here with 3 of the top 5 drivers having that success ballast, and Varkonyi leading the way now and looking to take yet another victory in his early domination of this LMGT3 challenge. Zoltan Varkonyi is 2.4 seconds ahead of Jordan 40, may well be 2.5 as they cross the timing board for the second time, and Varkonyi is going to be with that huge gap back to Jordan 40, who's now under pressure from Alistair Ramsey. Is he going to be able to make his way through into one? No. Is there a yellow flag out on the circuit? Not sure who or what that is for. But there is an incident on the circuit, and that is not ideal. 32 drivers, so a lot of action to keep on top of, and at the moment the action is dominated by those at the very top of the field. But looking a little bit further back, Craig Starkey has managed to make a move on Richard Cook, and he's gone around the outside of the third corner to confirm that position and make his way up to P15 and just guarantee that he stays in there for the time being. Well, actually, he's going to come under pressure from Richard Cook himself, but Cook just nowhere near as quick on the entry or on the exit of the corner, and it was just a desperate late braking move to try and challenge, as we do have our first DNF of the race. It is Daniel Borchert, who I'd imagine was the reason for those yellow flags. He has retired from this session less than 5 minutes in, so that is not an ideal situation for him. Zoltan Varkonyi, though, it is an ideal situation for him. 3.2 now is the gap between himself and 40, and I feel as though he's going to need that ballast already heading into next week. But of course, he's got the majority of this race and another race to try and assert his dominance once again, as Craig Starkey once again looks at the back of another car, more specifically McLaren, who got past on the last lap on one, and he's looking to get past another. It's going to be Dan Birch this time that he tries to attack, but nowhere near quite yet. And Richard Cook on the exit actually quite slow, and Mark Cooley does pull alongside but doesn't get the run off the exit of the final corner, and Cook stays ahead. Tom Osborne in the meantime looking down the inside of Robert Pure into one. Robert runs wide, but he does seal that position in the end. So the slightly more lax track limits here in GT3 cars as opposed to single-seaters has seen Pure hold that position.
Certainly has, and it's racing at the front of the real field. Is getting really battly and really scrappy, as here comes Hendrik de Vries, not only to the inside of Ramsey, but Lettinen as well. Has to back out of it slowly, though, as he gets boxed in. Lettinen on that last lap, able to get in front of Alistair Ramsey, was challenging Jordan 40, but a poor run out of turn 4 really affected the Mustang driver, as now we see the two Aston Martins of de Vries and Ramsey side by side into turn 7, not able to get the move done low. And for Ramsey, he hangs on to that 4th place, but he is struggling big time. This race up at the front of the field is going absolutely ballistic. Right now it's Shan Khan versus Robert Pure as well. This is over 7th place. Here comes Shan Khan to the inside. Can't count out Jacob Biddle either, but Jordan Biddle, sorry, behind him either. Khan just not able to get the car stopped enough on the brakes to just get that move done. So Pure lives to see another day in 7th place for now. And further up, Ramsey, de Vries, Osborne, Lettinen, 40 going tooth and nail fighting hammer and tongue, but 40 is somewhat been able to clear the rest of the field ever so slightly. A second separates him and Timmy Lettinen as we now head down that main straight once more to start lap 5 of the race, and Shan Khan is all over the back of Robert Pure once again. Same with Osborne on de Vries. De Vries making some weaves. He's moving down that main straight to try and break the toe for the BMW driver. Is Osborne going to be brave enough for the brakes? No, just has to sit behind for now, and Hendrik de Vries is just being able to sit in front, but here into a key overtaking opportunity into turn 3. Osborne trying to get that run. You see that wider line, hits that apex nicely, forces de Vries to take a narrower line through turn 4. Osborne can get the drive here in his BMW. He's going to try pull alongside. He's going to try it as late as he dares on the brakes, but Osborne has none of that. He says, no thank you, I'll just fight this one patiently, think about my battles, and he sits behind and stays in 6th place.
Yeah, so it was not worth going for the move just yet on this lap. And well, with 22 minutes left in the session, it does make sense for them to settle down and try and launch an attack on those cars up ahead if they so can, but at the moment they sit in behind, just like those further down the field. Mark Cooley trying to attack Dan Birch, as it's a little bit of a different scenario, while 40, Letton and Ramsey and De Vries and Osborne as well are all fighting for a podium. Those further down are, of course, they want a podium, but they may well have to settle for positions lower down. But don't tell them that, as they're going to continue to fight, and it's a late move to the inside for Mark Cooley, who just backs out of it at the death, and Dan Birch lives to see another day in 15th place at the moment. Mark Cooley getting very dicey towards the end of that little bit of scrapping there and that little braking zone as well. But yes, he stays in behind as we head around the final corner, and it is now side by side. Mark Cooley is just ahead of a battle between Daniel Christo and Richard Cook. It's going to be Christo who makes his way through. Cook, though, on the outside. Cook in the red, Christo in the silver, and it's going to be the red car of Cook that seals that position and moves up, holds that P17, tries to look ahead, but now it's going to be Daniel Christo under pressure from potentially Franklin Stegging. That could cause a domino effect as Paul Garnham tries to involve himself in this battle, but he can't quite do it, and that causes a further domino effect. Hiro Vashuri could see himself attacked around the outside by Gary Barham as they head up the hill now. Who's going to be easier on the throttle? It's going to be the case that Gary Barham is ahead of Vashuri, but for how much longer is this going to be the case? It's a late braking move, and there is contact, and there's a spinner. There is a spin at the back of this pack, and well, that is not ideal. Gary Barham, Paul Garnham, and they have both gone round. 20 minutes left in the session, yellow flags, and they find themselves dropping from fighting for the lower teens to dropping to P23 and 24 respectively. It's not an ideal scenario for them both, and well, that is race ruining, and they're going to have to pick their heads up, get the momentum going again, and get ready for round 2.
Yeah, so try saying their two names fast, back to back in a sequence. But at the front of the field as well, there was some contact between Alistair Ramsey and Hendrik De Vries. De Vries just getting his braking all wrong, caught out maybe by how slow the cars were in front, under braking into the hairpin, went straight into the back of Alistair Ramsey, allowing Tom Osborne to slide straight through and separate the two Aston Martins. Lettonen also looking very racy behind Jordan 40 at this stage of the race. Now on lap 7, let's look at Ramsey to the inside. That was late, it was bold, it was brave, and it was very daring indeed. Ramsey with a late lunge to the inside line, and what a way to move himself up into 3rd place. There was some contact made as Lettonen now has to defend from Osborne in behind him. Will Tom Osborne try hold this one round the outside, or will he go for the good old switcheroo? There's some contact made. He's tried going for the up and under, not able to get it done. There was a chain reaction. Osborne into the back of Lettonen, into the back of Ramsey, and 40 will be looking behind saying, keep scrapping boys, just let me break away from about 2 seconds in front of you guys, and then they can carry on scrapping for that final podium place here in race 1. De Vries a little bit squirmish off the end exit of turn 8. This is also all this squabbling, bringing back Robert Pure and Shan Khan into the equation. They could be looking at trying to climb their way up the order after their earlier squabble between themselves, but with Jordan 40 now about half a second in front of Alistair Ramsey. He's not all said and done yet. He's not checked out up at the front, and now is Lettonen putting that pressure on. It's the other Aston Martin of Alistair Ramsey, and he is really looking to try and get up into that top 3 as Alistair. He had a brilliant drive from the back of the field in race 2 of Le Mans, and is looking to put himself onto the podium for the 2nd time this season. Is he going to be able to do that though? Ramsey all over the back of 40 as we head down that main straight.
We have had a couple of issues, 4 cars further back. It's going to be Sebastian Borgerson and Gary Barham both having incidents on that previous turn round, and Jordan Biddle actually retiring from the session the one before. So we've had a couple more retirements here as that's a late lunge put in, and could that be the move made for Alistair Ramsey? Yes, it is. What a move, but Jordan 40 on the exit, just getting a little bit of a squirm and hitting the side of Alistair Ramsey, dropping them 2 down, and that is not ideal for either of them, as they are now right back in the fight and potentially with damage as well. 40 is going to come under pressure from Robert Pure, who's going to make his way up into that 6th place, and 40 from fighting for 2nd is now all the way down to 7th and could be fighting instead with Shan Khan in behind, who's looking racy.
Certainly could do, of course. I wouldn't be surprised if he does have a bit of front-end damage, and that will really affect his momentum heading down that main straight and any of those longer straights on the circuit, and potentially cause a little bit of understeer as well through the start of the lap. It also allowed Lettinen and Osborne past Alistair Ramsey in all of that as well, and Lettinen now having that clean air in front of him in that Mustang. 7 seconds nearly behind Zoltan Verkonyi, showing the domination of the Hungarian out in front. But will Lettinen be able to break away from the field behind at the minute? Osborne still quick off the pair, and he's hit the back of the Mustang as well. These drivers just constantly hitting into the back of one another. They're just getting a little bit caught out under braking of the difference in speed, the overspeed they carry in that little bit of a draft and that dirty air that these cars do kick up. 9 laps now on the board, and Alistair Ramsey could be looking to the inside of Tom Osborne. No, just pulls out of the slipstream, but this might allow Hendrick de Vries with that toe to be able to pull to the inside, but no, just the nature of turn 1 doesn't allow the move to be made. 6 tenths is the gap between 2nd and 3rd of Lettinen and Osborne. Of course, this is where Ramsey sent that move. He was a little bit too hot on the brakes, which caused him to have that spin on exit with that collision with 40 just a lap ago, and Lettinen just staying clear for now, and I don't think any moves will be made heading into turn 5 of the hairpin. But Osborne getting very low on the brakes, and there's more contact. Lettinen sent into a spin. Osborne pure into the side now of Timmy Lettinen as well. Osborne goes off the road, and look at that for sportsmanship if he's letting the Mustang back Biles, who's just rejoining safely, as there goes Lettinen now to the inside of car, not able to get the move done, and the German sweeps round the outside of the BMW. Can he pull this one off? This will be amazing if he can. There's some more contact made between Osborne and a Mustang, and Osborne has let Khan through, he's let Lettinen through as well in a show of respect. But carnage in the past 2 laps, lap 8 and 9, and Lettinen must have an issue because he's gone all out of shape into turns 10 and 11, and he is really struggling with the rear end of that car, and that's exactly where the contact was. So it's the rear splitter damage, causing a sheer loss in downforce.
I think potentially that is the case, and that is not ideal for Timmy Lettinen, who was looking very quick up at the top of an unfortunate incident between Ramsey and 40, and it was actually it was Alistair Ramsey who got that squirm on the exit, not 40 as I said, but an unfortunate incident between those two opened up the door for Lettinen to be fighting for that P2, but contact between himself and Tom Osborne leaves Lettinen without any fault of his own, dropping down the order and down in P7. We cross the line with 13 minutes and 50 seconds left to go on the clock, and no idea who's going to be sitting on this podium here today. Well, we know who's going to be in P1. It's going to be Zoltan Verkonyi, and if Alistair Ramsey and Hendrick de Vries can avoid incidents, then they look set to be the next 2 on the podium. Another retirement, by the way, of Jorge Prieto last lap. He has called it quits in this race, and Mark Cooley and Dan Birch came in to fix damage, and so they are out. They're not out, but they are out of contention for this race as well, but have decided to stick it out and keep going. Maybe they feel as though they can just keep fighting for this race and just keep that momentum up, keep that practice up, as they've got 13 minutes to go until the second race, or the second race qualifying preparations start to get underway. And yeah, that is going to be what they're going to be doing very, very soon. But for now, it looks as though they're going to be filtering through just like this. It's Verkonyi to Ramsey to de Vries, and it's a 1-2-3 for Aston Martins. Jordan 40 in P5 as well. It's Robert Pure who's done well to jump up to 4th place after his race start. In fact, he started in P6, gained 2 positions and jumped up. It's only Jordan 40 who's really lost positions in this top pack, and Timmy Lettinen as well. 40 dropping 4 and Lettinen dropping 3. We do have yellow flags out on the circuit once again, but I can't see why that is. And It's one of those things where it will become evident very shortly who it's involving, and I think it may well have involved Massimiliano Ferrari, but you don't quote me on that one. We cross the line once again with Zoltan Varkonyi 8.2 ahead, and the two Mustangs potentially brewing up a fight. Shankan ahead of Lehtinen. Lehtinen pulled out of that slipstream on that last lap round and down that main straight, but he's not quite had the momentum just yet to make a move. So all he's trying to do is threaten Shankan, as I believe that was a little bit of contact between somebody. There was certainly a lot of noise going on in the background, and we know how loud this contact model is on LMU, but there doesn't appear to be any damage at least, and they seem to be pretty happy how they are. Shankan isn't pretty happy with where he is. He's trying to get past on Jordan 40. He braked later, but 40 just got the turning, got the exit. Shan tried to go for the switchback, but quickly realised it wasn't going to be on, and so Jordan 40 managed to hold on to the position. However, 40 in doing that has allowed Pure to pull ahead just that little bit more, and it's going to be a 1.2 second gap between the two. So Robert Pure here could be on for what could be a very, very good fourth place in the end. Just staying out of trouble, making his way up. Consistency is key, and for the number 95, that's exactly what he's demonstrated in this race. Around 10 minutes left to go. Varkonyi may well go on to win this one, but the battles for P5, as well, they were the same drivers battling for P2 from before. The battles are still on.
Yep, they certainly are. And that battle between 40 and the Mustangs is really starting to brew up a storm at this stage. Khan nearly got that move done in turn 5 just a lap ago, and that actually also nearly allowed Timmy Lehtinen to go straight into the back with more contact on his teammate, but brilliant avoidance from the Finnish man as we're now going down that main straight. Pure trying to break away with all that he can in that McLaren just to keep streaking clear. This will be his best result of the season, and we'll see if he's going to be able to extend that advantage over the Aston Martin. Khan getting it all wrong out of turn 1. He got a little bit sideways out of the corner, and he just now has to sit behind Jacob 40, but Lehtinen's looming large in the mirrors. Mustang wing mirrors filled up with Mustang behind. And will the Proton Racing Finnish driver move to that inside line? No, he will not, but Khan super late on the brakes. Goes a little bit deep from the apex, but this does just keep him in front of Lehtinen for now. And we'll see if Khan's going to be able to hold on to this position for the rest of the race. Of course, on lap 12 now, Ramsey's been able to somewhat extend that gap by about a 10th over to Freeze. It's still neck and neck between the pair, about 3-4 tenths, separating the two Aston Martins in second and third. Of course, to Freeze, looking for his first trip to the podium. He'll be loving that if he is going to be able to do so. But with Hendrik de Vries now looming large in the mirrors of Alistair Ramsey, will he be able to get that move done in the later stages of this race? Of course, still has plenty of time to do so. About 8 minutes left in the session. And for Shan Khan as well, he is holding on against his teammate of Lehtinen. He goes a little bit wider on that exit, sweep across into the final braking zone, and Khan holding well, coping well under this pressure from Lehtinen behind.
Yes, lots of pressure, and we'll see how well they cope with it. Of course, last week the battle in race 2 came down to who was able to soak up the most pressure, and in the end it was Zoltan Varkonyi who did so. And at the moment this is the battle not for P1 but instead for P2, and it's going to be Hendrik de Vries following through Alistair Ramsey, as we may well have a move between the two Mustangs finally, as Timmy Lehtinen tries to hold on to the line. He does so, but Shan Khan had that inside. He stuck with the inside all the way through, and he held that position, just sweeping around, trying to squeeze Timmy Lehtinen and refuse him to have any sort of space at all. Khan defends to the inside. Lehtinen late move to the outside, tried to force Khan to go as deep and as central as he possibly could, and once again it's not quite worked, but Shan Khan couldn't quite get the power down right on the exit, and so this battle will wage on into the next sector on this racetrack. Late braking from Lehtinen, and they both got off the circuit. I believe Lehtinen just tried to cover Shan Khan off. Shan Khan decided that he didn't want to go that far off the circuit, and they both went off. Through went Morne Ploy, through went Tom Osborne, and more just tentative scrapping has allowed for the door to be open once again. A huge slide for Timmy Lettinen though, and that may well be the rear damage coming into effect for him. Dropping down the order, P10 is now where he sits, but he's looking very, very squirmy, and I can only attribute that to that rear wing damage that he may well have picked up, or the ballast stepping in as the cars get lighter and lighter, and that ballast has more and more of an effect. Alistair Ramsey trying to chase down Hendrik de Vries down this main straight. Speaking of ballast, and Hendrik de Vries is going to try and hold on. Ramsey holding that slipstream and pulling out only when is absolutely necessary as they head down the hill towards the first corner. Who's going to dare to be later? It's certainly going to be Ramsey, but he's going to pull this one off. He is in this occasion, because Hendrik de Vries just took the regular line. Ramsey took way too much speed into the corner, went, man, I'm going off the circuit anyway, I may as well just go far off the circuit and keep my momentum up. He sealed that position. That is a job well done from Alistair Ramsey. P2.
Yeah, nicely done from Ramsey. Maybe that could come under a little bit of controversy from the steward, so that might be referred if the Vries does not get the position back in a few laps time. But yeah, for Timmy Lettinen there, he tried to stop. He got a little bit too hot on the brakes into turn 7, and then of course Khan tried to go for that switcheroo, and some contact was made, and unfortunately both of them saw each other off the road, and that was an invitation, an open invitation to both the BMW and the other Mustang of Mornay Ploy and also Tom Osborne, who have now moved themselves up into 6th and 7th. Lettinen struggling, the man second in the championship, really struggling in this opening round of the second round of the season. Of course, this opening race here in Portimao, the first of 2. We are nearing the end of it, and the man who is leading, Zoltan Verkonyi, got that lead into turn 1 and has not looked back since. He's been absolutely flying in that Mustang. In that Aston Martin, sorry, 40 kilos of ballast. Who cares? No one cares. For Verkonyi, he just carries on going, and he keeps on at this electric pace heading into this first race here in round 2, and it's been a beautiful drive so far from the Hungarian. Alistair Ramsey and de Vries still squabbling over that second place spot. Jordan 40 has caught up to the back of Robert Pure, so that could be a battle that could brew within the next few laps or so. And then of course you have the drivers further back, Osborne, Ploy, Khan, Jalise, and also Moffat, who could potentially have their say in this. And actually Moffat going to be coming under pressure from Timmy Lettinen, so Lettinen could still finish this one off in the top 10. We're going to have to wait and see what these next few laps do bring, though. Not long left in this opening race here in Portimao, and so far, again, it's sheer delight for Verkonyi, and for the likes of Ramsey and de Vries, they're battling for a nice and sweet spot on the podium. And for de Vries, it'll be his first trip to the roster this season, and just shows how consistent he has been, that he's still in the top 5 of the ballast charts, of the point scorers. Last time at the Mons, didn't actually score a podium.
Yeah, consistency is always key, and that is exactly what Hendrik de Vries is demonstrating. That's what Zoltan Verkonyi is demonstrating up at the very top, because you can't get any better than winning again and again. And he's got 3 minutes 44 to seal this race off, while I don't know if you can call them title rival as they head into round 2, Timmy Lettinen, but they were certainly pace rivals at Le Mans. But Timmy Lettinen once again had decent pace, and he is looking to attack Daniel Moffat and try and take as much as he possibly can out of this round of racing. He's chasing Daniel Moffat around the final couple of corners. Moffat goes a little bit wider. Lettinen takes a tighter line, but he can't quite make his way through, and he's having to sit in behind for the time being, potentially getting that slipstream down the main straight once again. But no, he's just going to sit in behind, just stay there for the time being, as he's got 2 minutes 58 left, and unlikely that he's going to catch up to Brian Jalise. 5 seconds up the road at this point in time, but never say never, as we've seen thrills and spills across the course of this round 2, race 1 here in LMGT3 Challenge on GRDC TV. And yes, we will have another race coming your way very shortly. Of course, this one not over just yet, and anything could still happen.
Certainly not. De Vries has just spun from third place. Hendrik De Vries, staring at an opportunity to potentially take second, has just spun at turn 8, and that's promoted Robert Pure up into third place. A brilliant drive from the Austrian in the McLaren. Didn't have the greatest pace in Le Mans, but here in Portimao has kept it cool, has kept it clean, and he is now up into the top of the top 3 of this race. It's a brilliant drive and the highest the McLaren has finished all season if he's able to keep it there. But for Hendrik De Vries, staring, we talked about how consistent he was in that opening round of the season, and now staring at a potential first trip to the roster, and it's spun out behind Alistair Ramsey, just got a little bit too eager on the throttle. And for Hendrik De Vries, it's sheer heartbreak in this opening race here in Portimao. And for De Vries, he now has a lot of work to do. He's now got to try and get past Tom Osborne here if he wants any chance of breaking back into that top 5. It was so promising on those opening few laps, but in the dying stages of this race, it has all gone up in the air, and De Vries tried the outside line against Osborne. Is he going to try the inside line here into turn 3? But no, the BMW parks it in the middle of the road. But De Vries trying to get that run out of the corner, clips that sausage curb. Going to affect his momentum slightly, and that's Poy as well. Round out of turn 3. But Hendrik De Vries still fighting with Tom Osborne. Looking to the outside line as we head down into turn 5. Can he fight his way back into the top 5 in this race? Round the outside he does go. Goes a little bit wide on the corner exit. Osborne's still there, heading through turn 6. It's all going to be about who dares brake later through turn 7, and De Vries on that inside line is just able to check up in front, and he does manage to recover to P5, but with a near 3-second gap to Jordan 40. With 1 lap to go at the end of this one, it will surely be De Vries having to settle for 5th, but a story of what could have been in this opening race.
It was a story of what could have been in this opening race for Hendrik De Vries, but it was a story of what was for Zoltan Verkonyi, and what it was an absolute domination from the Hungarian. He will come across the line to take victory here in race 1 in Portimao with an absolute domination. Zoltan Verkonyi, in half an hour, has built up a 12.2 second gap to Alistair Ramsey, and behind him there's a further 6 seconds to Robert Pure. That is an absolutely humongous gap and an incredible victory in an Aston Martin 1-2. Couldn't be a 1-2-3 in the end because Hendrik De Vries missed out at the death. But Robert Pure took a very well-deserved and very quiet podium in P3. Jordan 40 in 4th place, and Hendrik De Vries across the line in P5. He will not be happy with that one. And Tom Osborne will take home P6 after all that. Then it's Shan Khan, Brian Jalise, Timmy Lettinen, and Daniel Moffat, the top 10. Morna Ploy and Daniel Moffat dropping to allow Timmy Lettinen to make his way through. Of course, Morna was not through any choice of his own, but Daniel Moffat just ended up giving the position away to Lettinen. We have our finishers just coming across the line now. Ira Vashuri and Adam Koszałski, a photo finish there, which Vashuri tops for P18, and what a finish that is between those two. Sebastian Borgerson will come across the line in P20, Gary Barham in 21st, Remy Alexander Borso in P22, and then Rich Green, Chris Willems, Massimiliano Ferrari, and then quite far off of the pack, it's going to be Mark Ferdinand Kerner and Mark Cooley to round us out, with Dan Birch having been lapped in the pit lane. But that's your race 1. Victory taken by Zoltan Verkonyi in perfect style.
Yeah, brilliantly done from the Hungarian. Once again, he takes victory here. That's 3 wins from 3 here this season for Zoltan Verkonyi. We still have another race coming up. Can he make it 4 from 4? What a drive. That 40 kilos, you thought, maybe that could bring some others into the play for the race victory. Nope. No chance stood for anybody. Verkonyi dominant like he was in Le Mans. Once he got into that race lead, he does not look back. He pushes on into that clean air, and it was absolute domination from the Hungarian driver once more. Are we going to see the same heading into race 4 of the season of round 2 now here in the Algarve? And this is where it really does heat up. Of course, for Verconyi, he's got a point to prove once more. He's got to try and keep this streak alive. And for the others, they've got to try and put that pressure on. They've got to try and maybe allow Verconyi to be 3rd, maybe 4th at the start of the race on that starting grid and make him work for it. But of course, Verconyi, again, as soon as he got away at that turn 1, as soon as he was able to get to the inside of Alistair Ramsey, get that move done, that clean air just opened up for him. And Joseph, he's just an unstoppable force at the minute, that as soon as he finds that clean air, the pace just comes so naturally for the Hungarian.
It's one of those performances that you get from drivers sometimes where they come into a series, maybe nobody knows anything about them, but then they just come into it and they absolutely dominate. And that's exactly what Verconyi's done, potentially an unknown force going into this season, but not an unknown force at all as we head through the first 3 races of this season. Of course, plenty to go, but these drivers have they've certainly got a force to be reckoned with. In the case of Verconyi, he is incredibly quick, and he's just demonstrated that this evening. And, well, we're only halfway through this evening's action. Another race is very soon to be underway. And, well, will we see Verconyi at the very top again? Or is that ballast going to affect him heading towards the second part of the race? Didn't seem to affect him in race 1 in any sense of the imagination. Didn't affect Lehtinen too much either. But, of course, when he got damage, then it felt really race ruining. Whether it was damage because, or whether it was issues because of the damage that he sustained, probably. Was it potentially an issue with his just his ballast coming together with the damage, or was it just ballast completely and he was just trying to push it too hard? Not sure. We will see as they head into race 2 and his car gets fixed and we're all back to square one. We'll see what he's able to do, but for now, Verconyi dominant. And I mean, that is the word that we use to describe Verconyi quite a lot. I think it's pretty relevant.
Yeah, it certainly is. Verconyi is oh so dominant. Just brilliant stuff from him once again. As I said, as soon as he finds that clean air, he can just find so much time, so much pace. And for Verconyi, it just doesn't seem like anyone can stop him. But yeah, what you said about Lehtinen, I think it was a bit of both. We saw those issues with the Mustang in Le Mans when he had no ballast, that the tyres did fall quite quickly. Once they got to about that halfway stage, that's when the pace really started to drop. And the tyres would start to complain, and he won't have the grip that he had compared to the likes of the Aston Martin cars. I think it was a mix of both, that damage that he sustained with maybe the rear diffuser, and then, of course, with the tyres just wearing at such a quick rate compared to everybody else, especially Shan Khan, who was a good, somewhat relevance to really pinpoint the difference in having ballast versus no ballast, is that there was a lot more action out of Lehtinen's car. There was a lot more understeer, a bit more of the rear end sliding out compared to Shan Khan. So yeah, really just for Lehtinen, it's going to be all about this race, maybe dialing it in a bit more once again, just trying to find that rhythm and just manage those tyres a bit more effectively. But that damage certainly did play a part. And then with the likes of Ramsey, De Vries, to start applying some pressure at the front, because of course Ramsey did get that pole, but just wasn't able to hold on to it. Ramsey, if he gets that pole position again, or De Vries, and Verconyi's in second, they know they've got to be aggressive. They've got to defend with all their might if they want any chance of winning this race, because as soon as Verconyi gets by, he's gone like a flash, and he is down that road. So they've got to try and just defend with all their power and just keep Verconyi behind as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, it's... well, we didn't see much qualifying pace from Verconyi, as you mentioned, in comparison to what we would have been expecting. I mean, we expected him to be right up the very top of the field in every single session. Not always the case, but of course, with a driver that quality, you come to expect it, a sort of just an expectant. You expect a lot from that driver, essentially, and that is what we had for Vaconyi. We didn't get that in qualifying, but in the race, it was a whole other story. And Zoltan Vaconyi exceeded expectations, I believe, at the very end. And yeah, he's just. While it did take him a while to get into the qualifying, his pace ended up being overall pretty good, and we could be fearing his qualifying pace on this time around. However, we are going to we're going to be seeing probably some new contenders up at the very top. Alistair Ramsey didn't make his name known until race 2. Last time out, Jordan 40 will be wanting to make his name known at the top of the field once again. Of course, he did take that pole position, but not much ever since then. And the number 777 Aston Martin will be hoping that he can fare a little bit better in this race 2. We're going to hope for a cleaner race 2, as well as all these drivers just tried in race 1 to gain as much time as they possibly could. But on that occasion, it was potentially pushing that little bit too much. But for these drivers, not long to go until qualifying will begin once again. We still hopefully will be having our 32 drivers in the field. 32, a lot more than you get in a single-seater race, and so there is always carnage happening up and down the field. We did have 4 DNFs, I believe, potentially 5, but I think it was 4 at the checkered flag in that last session. So we entered with 28. That's still a pretty hefty number.
Yeah, it is, and it just shows, even though there can be maybe some scrappy incidents, a bit more than we saw in Le Mans here this evening, that the drivers still are able to keep it relatively clean and able to really keep their cars in some nice places. But I was surprised by Biddle retiring. I don't know what happened to him, but he was just behind Shan Khan, so he could have been in that fight at the end with Khan, Lettinen and Pure as well, fighting for that podium spot. And he could have been a benefiter from that, but something obviously happened to him. Maybe a disconnect from Middle could have affected him ever so slightly. But we are just waiting for this practice session to end so we can get into our hyperpole, our second hyperpole of the evening. But yeah, it's been a brilliant evening so far. Alistair Ramsey doing well to get that second place. And we can see, actually now, I forgot about this, the time of day will have changed. This race, unlike the ones we've seen so far at the start of this season, we are having a night race here in the Algarve. And everybody now filing it out of the pit lane. And we're going to see who's going to come out on top here in the night. This is going to make it a bit more tricky now for the drivers here, Joseph, isn't it? Because, of course, the braking zones are going to be as visible. And look at everyone out of the pit lane, trying to find some space on the road. But again, because there's limited lighting around this circuit, where you might look in the sun, could be completely hidden in the dark, that you might not be able to pick out your braking zones perfectly, and that could maybe affect some of those top drivers.
It potentially could. It's one of those things where those who don't use assists will actually be hindered, and those who do use assists will be benefiting as they are able to use the racing line as opposed to those who can't. I know it well, as my first ever run on ACC, I went for Silverstone and I accidentally left the time at 0000. So I did a Silverstone run with no line on and no assists at all at midnight. So I know very well the struggles of tackling a circuit where you are not necessarily prepared to tackle. Of course, last time we only really saw one competitive lap being able to be thrown in, and with just a little bit less time in this session as opposed to the last, they are going to be really able to, or they're going to have to be really able to get the power down straight away and to get locked in straight away and get those positions sorted as soon as they possibly can. About 3 minutes left on the clock. Something else as well that could play as a factor in this one is you can play a little bit more mind games with the cars ahead. During the day, you can't necessarily have a little fun with your lights. At night, go crazy.
Yeah, you certainly can, and of course, with this qualifying session, this does now allow for drivers to maybe be caught up by traffic. So if you've got a slower car in front, that will not do you any world of good. So we could see a really shaken up grid if drivers have to overtake others on their lap times. But I'm currently on board with Zoltan Verkonyi, the man who has been so dominant this season. 1 pole position, 3 race victories. He has been on fine form as he's now heading down into turn 3, down to first gear. They want to slowly pick that power back up. It's a little bit off camber, then through turn 4 as well. Just try and dance the car out wide. A little slide from Verkonyi. Of course, the tyres will take a little bit more work to get up into the temperature window, as that track is going to be very cool with the limited clouds covering the surface and also the sun not showing across the circuit, and he's not happy with that one. Verkonyi backs out of it to try and build himself some space to the car in front. That is going to be of Dan Wilson, who is just in front of Zoltan Verkonyi, so he's going to try back off, build a gap. Who else is currently trying to set a lap time around this circuit, who's near the end of their lap mark? Cooley heading into turn 11 before heading down the hill into 12. He's got Brian Jalise in front of him, trying to form a little bit of a gap for his sake behind Tom Osborne, who is heading through into the final braking zone. So Tom, I think this is going to be one of the first representative times we are going to see if this has been a push lap from the BMW. And as he now heads through the final corner, what are we going to see from Osborne? A little slide through the final corner, maybe taking a little bit too much curb. Lettinen, a 45.8, a brilliant lap time from him. Daniel Moffat only goes second. Across the line goes Tom Osborne, and he actually goes, he's not, that wants to be his out lap. He wasn't on a flying lap just yet, but at the moment it's advantage Timmy Lettinen as Danny Wilson goes into second. And what was that? Was Alistair Ramsey there, Joseph?
Alistair Ramsey was purple in the first and the second sectors. That purple first has been taken off him ever since he set it, but he was purple in the second, and whatever something's happened in the third sector. Either way, he was going slow and setting himself up to go once again. So whatever happened to the number 777, he is preparing for another run. Whether it was just a bit of dirty air out of the corner, his lap time's going to be slow because he prepares himself for another one. Alistair Ramsey puts in a lap time of a 2 minutes 6, which of course is not ideal, but 20 seconds off of the pole time in that final sector. He was still purple in that second as he crossed the checkered flag. We still have time for these drivers to set laps as there is 10 seconds left on the clock. There won't be any action from Craig Starkey, Gary Barham or Jordan Biddle in this one, and Hendrik de Vries has only just managed to make his way across the line to set the lap. Zoltan Verkonyi is improving in the first 2 sectors, went purple in 1 and went purple in 2 once again, a 22.2 and a 37.2 in his first 2 sectors. This could be the pole time for the Hungarian, the number 27, as we do have all 32 drivers in here. Is going to be Timmy Lettinen holding that pole position as it stands. That's ballast not seemingly affecting him. Verkonyi around the final couple of corners. What is he going to be able to do around it? He's going to come up to the line. He won't get the slipstream like the cars in front of him. Will that matter as he's up to the line now? And it's going to be a lap time that is good enough for that pole position. He snatches it away at the death. What can Hendrik de Vries do? I don't think it's going to be enough to catch up to that 144.5, but 144.5. What an incredible lap pumped in at the death there from Zoltan Verkonyi. Purple in the first, purple in the second, and you can see that he was purple in the third as well, because 1 minute 30 or 1 second and 3 tenths. That is an insane gap to hold to the car behind. Hendrik de Vries now up to the line. What is he going to be able to do? I don't think it's going to be on the level of Zoltan Varkonyi, and no, it indeed is not. It's going to be 4th place though, which is a pretty good lap time, only 200ths off of Dan Wilson, who has gone up there off of the back of basically nothing. So those top 8, similar to the top 8 we saw in round 1, barring the man in 3rd place. Dan Wilson from absolutely nowhere lines up on the 2nd row of the grid.
Nicely done, Dan Wilson. Take a bow, only a 10th off Timmy Lettinen as well. And yeah, just really well done from Wilson to get himself up into 3rd. Alistair Ramsey will be a little bit disappointed with that opening lap, but Zoltan Varkonyi, take a bow. Another brilliant lap time with all that success ballast. 1.3 clear of Lettinen. This man, just what can you do to stop him? Lettinen's just going to need to absolutely drop the hammer off the line to pull alongside into turn 1 if he's going to be able to do anything about the. We did see that happen in Le Mans in the 2nd race as well, conveniently, that Lettinen was able to get past Varkonyi on that opening lap of the race. So we now let the drivers form up on their somewhat grid spots heading before the rolling starts. Alistair Ramsey, of course, in 6th, De Vries 4th, and Daniel Moffat as well. He's doing well in this 2nd qualifying with his ballast, because, of course, he's got a extra 24 kilos on the car, 3rd heaviest on the field, and he's in 9th place as well. But of course, anything can happen here in Portimao, with it being a night race as well here, Joseph. Could add to that drama, especially with the lights being used in those mind games.
Yeah, you don't see night races around Portugal very often, but we have the luck of having one right here, and we have the luck of 32 drivers getting ready to tackle it. It'll be Zoltan Varkonyi up the very top of the field to set us underway for this first race, and Timmy Lettinen just behind. Then Dan Wilson, Hendrik de Vries, Shan Khan and Alistair Ramsey look to pressure on the 2nd and 3rd rows of the grid respectively, with Jordan Forty and Robert Pure taking up the 4th. Then Daniel Moffat and Richard Cook on the 5th row of the grid, and Mark Corley just outside that top 10. Brian Jalise lines up alongside him as we get going. That is your top 6 rows, and those are the top 12 drivers that could potentially be in for a very, very strong race here. Of course, the ballast will be applied once again after this race, heading into the next one, but it's all about taking maximum points home. There's some headlights flashing, as this time it'll be Varkonyi to get us away. Jordan Forty down in P7, and that is a little bit lower than he was in this first race start, but he would have practiced being a little bit further down. He wouldn't have been expecting to be up there on pole. Varkonyi and Lettinen, they expected to be alongside each other on the front row, and they're going to get us underway very soon. You can see again, taking a very long time to get underway, and we will be going to green flag racing now. Varkonyi leads us away. That's a very, very strong start from Hendrik de Vries, who pulls alongside Dan Wilson, and he'll try and get ahead into the first corner. He started 4th. He may well be up to 2nd as they head through the first corner. Not quite, as Alistair Ramsey tries to fight back through the next couple of corners. Is he going to be able to get through late on the brakes? The green and black Aston Martin is not quite going to get the run, and he's going to have to filter out in behind de Vries, but Zoltan Varkonyi leads this way. Dan Wilson managed to hold on to P2 in the meantime, and Timmy Lettinen, an awful start, dropped down to P5 just ahead of his teammate, who could be looking for a move. That's a late lunge down the inside from, I believe that was Richard Cook, as he tries to take that position, but it's worked, and he moves up into 8th place for the time being. And Mark Corley, Tom Osborne side by side between those two as well. Late lunge from Tom Osborne, as is he going to be able to make this one stick? Not quite. Corley stays ahead for that P11, but Zoltan Varkonyi leads this way, and Timmy Lettinen, awful start. That ballast may well be affecting him, and he's going to have to fight back. Poor line though from Alistair Ramsey. Lettinen not able to pounce, and the car now down in P5, started on the front row, has a lot of work to do.
Ramsey had an electric start. He started in 6th place, up into 4th. But yeah, Lettinen, it just seemed he didn't react at all to Varkonyi's get-go in the green flag. He just did not react and got bogged down and just unfortunately, was on the outside line and dropped all the way down to 5th, with the likes of Wilson, De Vries, Ramsey, and even Khan getting so much more of a better start. But Khan was not able to get that move done. But here we go. Viconyi already 1.6 seconds ahead before we even reach that the end of the first lap. This is Max Verstappen 2023-esque domination here from Viconyi at the moment. Dan Wilson going to try his best at holding on to that second place. Had strong pace in qualifying. Hopefully he can keep that going. And Hendrik De Vries looking to try and make amends for that spin in the opening race this evening, with Wilson having a big slide out of turn 3. Could this now allow De Vries to get the run out of turn 4? I don't think so. He's just not going to be close enough in that Aston Martin, but he is trying to make an amends for that spin earlier on when he was staring at a potential second place, but would have had third. And he's now looking to try and put that right. But Alistair Ramsey, the man he was chasing in that last race, is now chasing him now. And we're going to see if he's going to get that move done at any possible opportunity. But so far, so good for the top 10 in this field. A good start from them all. And for Sultan Viconyi, he's already broke that gap to 2 seconds. With Timmy Lettinen not really making any impressions either, though, on Alistair Ramsey.
I think we may well have had a couple of incidents at the back. There was a car spinning, which I believe to have identified as Remy Alexander Borso. I think, I couldn't quite tell, but Gary Barham involved in there as well. And then there was a number 70 going off very far off of the circuit in the first corner. So fighting going on within the first few laps, up and down the field. And for some, it was in a positive light. For some, a very, very detrimental one. And that is not ideal for any of the drivers involved in any of those incidents, as they will have to fight back from the very rear of the field as they head through the next few laps on this racetrack. Speaking of, we're going to end at the second of our half an hour. And, well, Gary Barham has decided to DNF, whereas Tom Osborne, Brian Gillies and Paul Garnham, all involved in incidents at the back of the field, are just they're going to keep going. They aren't going to retire from this session just yet, but they're going to come out and they are going to be significantly off the field, like 80, 90 seconds at least off of the rest of the field. So not ideal situation for them, but for those up the very top, it is significantly better. Dan Wilson trying to hold on ahead of Hendrik De Vries. I think he may well be holding up the number 27 as Hendrik De Vries has his eyes set on that race lead. He has the pace. He had the pace to take a podium in race 1, but he didn't quite execute it, as a mistake in the last few laps of this race cost him. But this time it was a mistake from Dan Wilson that benefited De Vries. He's up to P2, and the number 27 is set to chase the other number 27, Zoltan Viconyi, up the very top of the field. In the background, you can see Adam Koszałski and Mark Cooley fighting, the two number 40, or number 46 and the number 70, even, as Matt Fordham is the car behind in the 46, just fighting for 15th. But it is going to be Koszałski ahead of Cooley, and Hendrik De Vries leading the way ahead of Wilson. Ramsey and Lettinen are next to strike, and it may well be a case of when, not if.
It certainly could be. Wilson really is struggling here in his BMW to just get the car stopped, and that was all that happened down at turn 8. Just got a little bit wide through 7, and unfortunately that upset his line for the rest of that complex of corners. But Alistair Ramsey, even though he wants to get by the BMW, has to look in his mirrors as well from the Mustang of Timmy Lettinen, who looks to that inside line but not able to get the move done into turn 1. And that will cost him dearly on the exit, just dropping back a few temps. But here comes Ramsey on Wilson. He's getting closer and closer. He's looming large in the mirrors. Surely there's going to be some mind games here with the light. It's going to give him a little bit of a flash, I would think, down this straight, just to put Wilson off into the braking zone. But no, nothing doing. And Wilson is actually getting close enough to maybe have a lunge onto the back of Hendrik De Vries. And he does flash the lights as the BMW to try and put De Vries off. But no, actually, De Vries does go wide. May have worked a little bit there for Wilson, just flashing the lights there at Hendrik De Vries into the braking zone, putting him offline, just being a little bit of a distraction could have just worked into his favour, but unfortunately not able to get the move done this time around. But he's keeping on the rear of that Aston Martin. Wilson really is having a strong race here. Currently sits in third, looking at that podium place, and potentially can fight his way back to second. But here comes Alistair Ramsey to the inside into turns 10 and 11, but not able to get the move done. This could invite Lettinen now to go for a move on the Aston Martin, but no, the Mustang just a little bit too far back for now as we head into the next left-hander. And it's the freeze from Wilson, from Ramsey, from Lettinen, but Ramsey is getting really racy behind that BMW, looking to make it 2 podiums here in Portimao, looking to take both races with at least a podium and have a good chance in the championship here this season. And Ramsey is doing just that. Of course, he's got 2 podiums from 3 races. He's looking to make it 3 from 4, and that's exactly the same as what Timmy Lettinen is going to try to do as well. He's looking to make it 3 from 4 as well after that disappointment in race 1. The Finnish driver is looking to try and right his wrongs. He's looking to push forwards, and it's now all over the back of Alistair Ramsey as we head into turn 3.
Yeah, Alistair Ramsey in that 4th place at the moment, but may well not hold on to it for very long. We should, we will have to wait and see throughout this race exactly what is going to occur between these drivers. But at the moment, Alistair Ramsey P4, and he looks set. We've had a pretty good weekend, all things considered. Henrik de Vries 5 seconds off of the back of Zoltan Varkonyi. It was not a case of Dan Wilson being slow. It was a case of Varkonyi being very quick. And, well, just to have a look at some of the drivers further down the field, you have a number of drivers who've had incidents earlier on. Of course, that one I talked about that caught out Osborne, Garnham, Prieto and Jalise, as well as Barham, Stegging and Birch, who have all DNF'd. But as we look back to Dan Wilson trying to make his move on Alistair Ramsey, we can see a man desperate to make his way through, but not quite yet able to, and having to sit in behind for the time being. But yeah, Monoploy, Remy Alexander Borgso and Chris Willems have been involved in incidents as well, which has dropped them off at the back of the field. So you have 23rd down to 30th, who may well play a part in some of these races at the very top, as Monoploy comes into the pits one more time, and we'll see what that one is all about, whether it is going to be a DNF off of the circuit from Deploy. I will have to wait and see, but for the moment it is it's a pretty good race going on. Jordan 40 could be trying to attack Richard Cook for that P9. 40 also another driver who had a quietly bad start up the very top, and yeah, that is not an ideal scenario for him. And he now sits in P10 trying to get past Richard Cook. How long is it going to take him? You'd think it's a matter of when, not if, in this one as well.
Yep, it certainly is, and for 40, he had a poor qualifying really is what's kept him so far down. Started 9th, now in 10th. It's been overall a poor second race here under the lights for Jordan 40, and he's looking to try and make his way up the order slowly but steadily. Of course, Ramsey was able to get past Wilson. That's now unleashed the Mustang of Lettinen behind the BMW, but the more he sits behind, the further clear Ramsey gets from himself, and that potential podium for Lettinen does start to disappear, slowly slip through his fingers as he looks now to the inside. No, he doesn't. He hits the back of the BMW. A big thud up the back of Wilson's car. That would have really increased his entrance speed into the corner there for Wilson, but he's able to hold on to it nicely. Khan behind is still looming large. He's trying to pick up the pieces if anything goes wrong between these two, and we might have just seen a little inkling of what could happen later on in this race. De Vries with about a 2-second advantage over Alistair Ramsey. He's driving very nicely in that second place spot, not really under too much pressure, as we see Lettinen tucked into that slipstream. We know that Mustang is fast in a straight line, and he's going to try and use that to his advantage over the BMW. A skirmish exit from Wilson out of turn 1 as we head up into turn 3, one of the most key traction points on the circuit. Wilson keeps it calm and composed this time around. I don't see Lettinen getting that move done just yet unless he sends one to the inside here into turn 5. The head, he's late on the brakes,
incident.
but not late enough.
Is that
with
incident in the first corner between, I believe that's Eero Vashuri and I think it may well have been Craig Starkey. Starkey able to get going okay, but just literally going into the side of him. That is not ideal, and well, I was glad I could get a couple of perspectives as we're testing out new things. We had the little picture cam there, potentially covered up a little bit of the incident, but it was certainly a huge one there where he literally it looked as though he drove into the side of him, got a little bit scrappy for these lower positions, and Eero Vashuri involved. He's now down to P19.
Yeah, poor Fajuri there. Just disaster for the BMW driver. He could have been in a decent position. I mean, Craig Starkey's now in 16th and Fajuri dropping down into 19th. But they did drop down quite a way down the order. I did see them start to tumble ever so slightly when that collision did happen. So very unfortunate for Vajuri, another Finnish driver having some bad luck here this evening. And Lettinen still not able to get past Wilson just yet. And look at that gap between Ramsey and De Vries. Ramsey really starting to bring that gap down. He's really starting to apply the pressure now to Hendrick. Are we going to see another mistake made from the Hearts of Racing team, Aston Martin, who spun out from 3rd place last time around and dropped to 5th? This time around he's in 2nd, and instead of being the one applying the pressure, he is the one being hunted. The pressure is now on his shoulders, and Ramsey, we know he is quick. We know he can make those moves, so if he's able to just maybe cause a little bit of a crack and just keep working at the seams of the Aston Martin in front, he could find an opening and then just barge through that door. But we'll have to wait and see. Wilson versus Lettinen, only about 2/10 of a second, but they still are inviting the likes of Pure and Khan into this squabble. But Lettinen still not able to get that move done as we head down the hill through turn 9 up into turns 10 and 11. This double right-hander, Lettinen late on the brakes. Is he looking for it? No, just can't get there. And Lettinen has to sit behind once more, but that gap now about 5 seconds between Ramsey and Wilson. We're seeing it increase more and more as we head into turn 12. And Lettinen just able to stay, Wilson just able to stay in front of Lettinen. But I feel like this won't last too much longer as the Mustang is looking for a brilliant exit down that main straight.
And he may well have just got it as Dan Wilson squirming on the exit of that corner as well. Can Timmy Lettinen pull alongside, or has he not quite got enough down at that main straight? We are going to see as there's more yellow flags out in the back of the field. We'll see what that one is for in a little bit, but for now the action is focused on these two fighting for 4th and 5th, and it's going to be Dan Wilson who holds onto it once again. Those yellow flags in fact did not seem that dramatic, and whatever it was has been sorted out once again. Looking down further down the field, the battle for P13 looks to be pretty good. Boredom, Kashauchki and Cooley all very close together, and Craig Starkey and Jordan Biddle as well, not too far off. So you've got a good little scrap going on for that 13th place between a number of drivers, and as we tick over the halfway point in this race, it remains to be seen what they're able to do. Battles brewing up and down the field, and you can barely take your eyes off of any of them as it all just seems a bit tense. It has come down a little bit, but that is because it is waiting to absolutely explode through the next few laps on this circuit and through the next few laps around Portimao, and it has been a pretty good couple of races so far. Well, it remains to be seen how this one climaxes, as well, it looks to be going the way of Akonyi once again, which is to be expected. But everybody else, it's still pretty much up in the air. Of course, we don't know who's coming P2, De Vries or Ramsey. We don't know who's coming P3, Wilson, Lettinen, Khan or Pure. P13 still contested and is being contested around the final corner. Kashauchki couldn't quite get the exit, and well, it wasn't in fact around the final corner, as we can barely see as well through these darker corners on this night Portimao circuit. Kashauchki not quite getting the exit, couldn't quite get past Fordham, and Cooley, Starkey and Biddle waiting in the wings as well to fight. And then P27 still contested, Jorge Prieto and Paul Garnham fighting it out for the wooden spoon, the bottom position on the field. You can't take your eyes off it, and well, we have plenty of action to keep going in this race. With 13 minutes left on the clock, you would imagine they're going to be able to get a few more laps in. I'm trying to do the maths off the top of my head. It'll be about a 1 minute 50 lap time that we can dedicate about 2 minutes to. We should get 6 more laps in, hopefully, if not 5. We crossed the line with well, we crossed the line with only a couple of seconds ticked over the timer last time, so it's pretty exact, that half an hour, as to when you get to the end of this race. But yeah, I think it's going to be 5 more laps, but we'll have to wait and see. It's 12 minutes and 50 seconds is the bit that we do know, and we have battles brewing up and down the field. Fordham and Kashauchkis on your main screens, and they are side by side. Looking at that little side screen, as that is going to be Fordham, who is overtaken by Kashauchkis. And just looking at the bottom screen down in the corner, that is the battle for further up, and it looks to be heating right up. So we're going to go completely with these front two, De Vries and Ramsey, trying to fight this one away down the main straight.
Yeah, they certainly are as well, but Lettison just getting past Wilson there. Nicely done from the Mustang. That's exactly what he needed to do, but has he lost too much time to the two in front of him? And you may have heard me have a big, somewhat sigh or a noise just a lap ago. That was because Lettison was full on sideways. It was parallel to the circuit out of turn 12, but somehow was able to hold on to the car behind Wilson and not lose any time at all. It was brilliant car control from Timmy Lettinen. Maybe those finished jeans just helping him out ever so slightly. But here we go then, Ramsey versus De Vries. Is Ramsey close enough for a move? No, he is not, but he's trying to look to the inside, trying to make any sort of mistake come out from Hendrik De Vries, and Alistair Ramsey is all over the back of the Aston Martin of De Vries as we head through 7 and 8, of course. Ramsey is looking to make it 2 second places in a row here in the Algarve. And are we going to see that happen? Ramsey up the hill now into turns 10 and 11. Not able to get close enough for now, as now Lettinen has been able to straight clear of Wilson. Wilson is now struggling to keep Shan Khan behind. He's having a good race though, is Wilson. He's having some good experience fighting at the front. And he is now currently lying in fifth, but could it be more for Shan Khan? He's all over the back of the BMW, but of course we know Wilson can actually get a really good drive. This final braking and traction zone. 15, and he's actually able to get it quite sweetly onto the throttle. I say that Khan is all over the inside through the final corner. Is he going to be able to get that move done now? No, he will not. He was just drift a little bit too far wide in that toe. And same for De Vries versus Ramsey. No move being made there. And for Hendrik De Vries, he is looking to try and keep that second place, but a little bit squirmish out of turn 1. For Hendrik's sake, I hope we don't see another mistake that costs him dearly and another podium position go up in smoke.
Yes, really hoping that there's no bottle there for Hendrik De Vries and he is able to hold on to that P2. If he was able to get P1, it would be very unlikely, as this is now side by side Shan Khan, Dan Wilson. It's going to be Khan on the inside, Wilson on the outside. Khan gets that turn in. Wilson gets the outside line, but Robert Pure actually on that inside, blocking off that switchback from the car behind and actually pulling alongside. So it's going to be, instead of Khan versus Wilson, Pure versus Wilson. It is going to be Wilson that comes out on top, but Pure looking to race with him just in behind. Looking further back, Craig Starkey is trying to fight with Matt Fordham, and they are going to head to the downhill braking zone and try and seal the move, just like the move was sealed before just a second ago. And Craig Starkey does in fact seal that move, but there's a spin in the background, and that is not what you would like to see. Literally right in behind this battle, one of the cars waiting in the wings has spun around, and well, that is certainly not ideal for them. Looking back at the battling that is continuing to go on, though, Craig Starkey is catching up to the back of Adam Kuszewski, so could be fighting for that P13, and Fordham, Biddle and Cooley just happy to wait in the wings and continue this fight onwards. We will take a moment as well to thank the people who make this event possible. Of course, it's fitting that we are riding with Craig Starkey at the moment, the admin, and making sure that we were able to get here, the broadcast was able to run, and making sure he is able to run as well. He wasn't feeling particularly well heading into this race, but he's done well to get within the mid-pack and continue on his way to what should be a pretty okay result. He would have been wanting for more, but considering that there was no qualifying performance from him, it wasn't too bad. Also, Coach Dave Delta, get your better lap times, start with Delta, get your sim racing setups right there. Then you have, of course, Driven Minds, the title sponsor for the LMGT3 challenge. They are here to help you with whatever you may need, and of course they've helped stewards and well, people wanting to get into stewarding. That is their flagship campaign, where they've been providing assistance for stewards wanting to get into stewarding, and they have been pretty successful with that. Trek Marshals as well, I believe, has been their main export, as they offer courses to people in need, but a very good cause and a very good title sponsor. We are with 7 minutes remaining in our LMGT3 challenge, and Craig Starkey looks like he's sealed that P14. He's been rapid over that last lap to get up ahead of Matt Fordham, 9/10 quicker in that second sector, and he's closing down on Adam Kuszewski, who in himself is closing down on Sebastian Borgerson. So the battle for P12 may well be on, and the battle for P2 certainly on, the battle for P6 certainly on. We're set for an exciting end to your race 2 here around Portimao, and Zoltan Vakonyi looks like he's had a pretty boring race up at the top. I know that inside that cockpit he will be excited.
Yeah, he'll be pushing on, will Zoltan Vakonyi. He knows he's still building that gap. It may seem a little bit boring from maybe a racing standpoint, but he'll be treating it like a quali lap after quali lap, just trying to see if he can improve his own lap time and see how far he can push this car. But of course, Dan Wilson and all of that has been taken by Shan Khan, and this is now allowing Robert Pure to now have an attack and a go at the BMW. Of course, the McLaren driver finished third in the last race, and that is the highest a McLaren driver has finished all season. So brilliant evening for Robert Pure to potentially break into the top 6 as well at the end of this race too. But yeah, all our brilliant sponsors that Joseph did mention helping us out, and also Driveline Media for bringing this action to us as well. If it wasn't for them, no stream will happen, and pleasure for them to help us get this racing on to your screen. So for Robert Pure, he's all over the back of Dan Wilson. He's had to take evasive action around the outside of the BMW. And further up between the pairs, Hendrik de Vries and Alistair Ramsey still squabbling over that second place. Wilson taking a wider line through turn 14 and out through 15. There you go. Will Pure be able to finally get that run he needs? That BMW just looking so strong through that final corner. That Pure just not being able to do anything with it. De Vries not able to get the move, staying in front of Ramsey. Ramsey just not able to get close enough to send a lunge to the inside line either. And at the moment, both battles in a bit of a stalemate. And for Alistair Ramsey, he's running out of time. he's going to need to start really applying that pressure to the freeze and do it quickly if he wants any chance of snatching that P2 away and make it a double of P2s, a brace of P2s at the end of this evening.
Although, having seen what he was able to do to Hendrik de Vries in that last race, he will be wanting to just keep applying that pressure once again and hoping to force a mistake out of de Vries and take that P2 away. Lettinen would be wanting that as well as a mistake of his own in the first race. Puts himself not as high as he would have liked, but P4 is still where he stands at this point in time in race 2 at the very least. But yes, we have a lot of racing action still to go as well, 3 minutes 51. There's about 3 laps left in this race, and it's getting very, very close between de Vries and Ramsey for that P2 spot. And Ramsey just trying to follow through as they head around the final corner once again.
Yeah, de Vries went a little bit wide through turn 11, and this now allows Alistair Ramsey to have that opportunity, but just again not close enough. Trying to find that slipstream out of the final corner and up into turn 1 once more. And now heading into that first corner, Alistair Ramsey all over the back of Hendrik de Vries, looking to try and apply any form of pressure he possibly can in this race, and will to do it enough. We saw the first crack of the armour, the first chink of the armour there for Hendrik de Vries. But will it be enough for Ramsey to get through? He's all over the back of him now heading into turn 5. This is where Ramsey could maybe force de Vries offline, maybe just scare him that tiny bit. De Vries does take an earlier apex. This might allow Ramsey to get the good old switcheroo. De Vries goes wide, and this is now allowing Ramsey to be all over the back of him. Look at that, to the outside line goes Alistair Ramsey, the D-Station racing car, round the outside of the harder racing team. But no, just not able to get the move done this time through turn 8. Of course, this is where de Vries spun, trying to apply the pressure on Ramsey in that last race with such little lap time, race time to go. And for de Vries, he just is able to hold on. But now into turn 11, here comes Ramsey to the inside line, and again just not enough to find his way through. So for Alistair Ramsey, he's just having to sit behind for now. He's trying everything. He knows his time is running out, and he needs to really start applying that pressure to Hendrik de Vries in front. But Alistair Ramsey really being able to just sit in front for now. The question is, will we get another lap of racing? Yes, I think we're just going to get 2 laps to go in this one. I don't think that was the start of the final lap. So we have 2 laps of racing action left. And it will be just by the barest of margins for Conyi being able to make it. So we go to lap 18 instead of lap 17.
Yeah, Zoltan Verkonyi going quicker than he did in the first race, and he's going to take us to another lap of racing. However, everybody else was faster as well, which is why that gap is not quite as dramatic as it was in the first race. It's only about a second off, which just demonstrates his incredible pace. And, well, yeah, just having a look at the fastest lap times, right? Zoltan Verkonyi's fastest lap time is a 1 minute 45.0. The second fastest lap time from anybody on this entire field is Alistair Ramsey, 1:45.9. He is 9 tenths quicker at his best than anybody else at their best. That is absolute domination, and that maybe shows that he needs a little bit more than ballast, as that's somebody off just in front of Hendrik de Vries, one of the cars that was about to be lapped. And, well, he most certainly has been lapped. Was it Mark Ferdinand Kerner? I think it may well have been. It was somebody in front of these two who potentially crumbled under the pressure and just allowed them their way through. But for Zoltan Verkonyi, he is absolutely dominated. Not just race 1, not just race 2, but the whole championship so far. The number 27 now rises over the crest, and he will rise up to the line for one more time here in Le Mans Ultimate, here for the LMGT3 Challenge. The Global Racing Drivers Club sees yet another dominant performance. Zoltan Varkonyi is going to take us to the checkered flag and win here under the lights in Portimao. Henrik de Vries does hold on to that P2 in the end ahead of Alistair Ramsey. Timmy Lettinen takes that P4 in the end, as he was able to stretch his legs ahead of Shankan. So a pretty decent performance there in the end from Timmy, but he would have been wanting better. That poor start, though, has sort of forced him to that P4. P6 for Dan Wilson. Robert Pure will take P7. Then it's Daniel Moffat, Jordan Forty, and Richard Cook. Looks like he may well be rounding out this top 10. Daniel Cristo only 5/10 behind, but Cook does round out that top 10 in the end. Then it's Craig Starkey in P12. Jordan Biddle takes 13th. And, well, that's a DNF right at the end. So, potentially a glitch for Adam Koszalski, who drops down the order. But he was, I believe, in P13. And then it's Biddle, Fordham, Borgerson, Cooley, Boucher, Vissuri, and Massimiliano Ferrari just 1.2 seconds ahead of Rich Green. So this one not quite yet done, but I think it may as well be done. Then Remy Alexander Borgshaw, Mark Ferdinand Kerner, Morne Ploy, Tom Osborne, Jorge Preto, and Paul Garnham to round out our finishers, with Chris Willems, Brian Jalise, Gary Barham, Franklin Steglink, and Dan Birch to round out every single one of our 32 drivers.
Yeah, brilliant stuff once again. New track, same old Zoltan Varkonyi. That is 4 wins on the bounce. There's no stopping him. There is no stopping Zoltan Varkonyi. No matter what you do, that man always finds a way. That'll be an extra 5 kilos of ballast added to his car to be up to 45. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets up to 50 by the time we finish off next week. But a brilliant drive from Zoltan Varkonyi, and well done for Hendrik de Vries for making amends, being able to repair what happened in race 2, and is now on to the podium for the first time this season. So a massive congratulations to him, and Alistair Ramsey, who picks up his 3rd podium in 4 races as well. A brilliant drive from himself. But yeah, for Zoltan Varkonyi, you can take the track away from the driver, but you can never take the driver away from the track. A brilliant driver that Varkonyi is. The Hungarian hero strikes again. And for Varkonyi, he has extended his championship lead by an absolute mile. And I wouldn't be surprised if after next week he'll extend it even more again. But of course, it's still a long way to go in this season. And for Varkonyi, anything can still happen. Other drivers could throw their hand at their chances of winning the races, but another 12-second race victory. Who can stop this man? Of course, next week we head to Interlagos in Brazil, Sao Paulo, another fantastic racing facility before we head to Bahrain, Imola. Then we have a break for a couple weeks before we head to Fiji, which could potentially change to, and then Kota, Spa, Monza, and Sebring to round off the season. That'll be on the 11th of August. But Joseph, another brilliant evening of racing. And the question on everybody's lips is, who can stop Zoltan Varkonyi?
Well, at the moment, absolutely nobody. He was dominant in both the first and the second races of the season and of the evening. Well, so we will have plenty of action to come from him. Plenty of action across the rest of the season as well. Do not fret, even if the battling for that first place is not over, but it is not looking very it's not looking very close at the moment at the top of the field. Of course, Timmy Lettinen did challenge in Le Mans, and well, with this being the LMGT3 challenge, I'd expect somebody else to be nearing the top of the field. Maybe next week, maybe it'll be Timmy once again. Maybe we'll get somebody brand new right up the very top of that field. But yes, it is going to be a good season, but it's been a very good start from Zoltan Varkonyi, who ended up taking that victory. at the very top once again. P2 went the way of Hendrik de Vries in the end, and well, it was a pretty deserved P2. He had to work hard for it, and he had to make up for mistakes in race 1, but he managed to get it over the line.
Yeah, he did, and you've got to respect that there from Hendrik de Vries. That pressure was being applied from Ramsey. He made a couple mistakes, but he was able to recover extremely nicely. And for Hendrik de Vries, he'll be very happy with that second race being his first trip to the rostrum this season. And if my math serves me correctly, I think the championship order will now be as follows. I think it'll be Ramsey up into second in the standings, followed by Hendrik de Vries, then Lettinen, Khan, Moffat I think is how the standings will look after this race. And of course, the man at the top of the standings, which no question as to who that is Zoltan Verkonyi, who of course has had a brilliant season so far. 100% win record, 2 poles as well to go with it. Just who can stop that man? And for Timmy Lettinen, I'd say it was kind of a disappointing evening there for the Finn in the Mustang. Of course, some damage and some disastrous luck in that opening race, and then getting stuck behind Dan Wilson in the second race as well really stopped that charge for the podium. So for Lettinen, I feel like this evening's been quite a disappointment for him, Joseph.
It does, and well, he will be trying to do better. We will be able to hear from our championship leader. We just need to jump over back into the GRDC comms box, so we will be just a second, or at least Axel will be able to speak straight away to Zoltan Verkonyi, of course. Not really needing an introduction. You may well need an introduction, because we barely saw your race. But, well, talk me through that one. And, well, just talk me through the race in general. I mean, there wasn't much racing to be had, but what you did out there was incredible.
Good evening, guys. Yeah, it was kind of tricky in the same time, and kind of, how to say it, like, surprised me a lot, because I didn't expect that gap, to be honest. In qualifying, in the first qualifying, it was okay. I know there will be some guy who don't get a penalty, I mean ballast. And yeah, it can be P2, P3, P4 or something like that, and that will be okay. But I was not expecting P2, and also in the race there was a good pace. And yeah, I can increase the gap because the guys behind me fighting with each other, and yeah, it was kind of cool first round. And for the second, yeah, I think nobody expect the public qualifying session in the night. It was kind of crazy, and yeah, that make a lot of chaos at the same time, and I can find a big gap in the field, and I can get a very decent lap, and that's get me the pole. And after that, just I need to go as fast as I can in the start, and everything will be fine, because I know in the straight line I'm losing so many times, like 2/10, 3/10. But in the corners, I'm gaining a lot on them. So yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yeah, of course, 2 brilliant races there from you, Zoltan. Just really describe how they were. I mean, were they boring from your standpoint, of course, having no real competition, or was it just you pushing yourself? Were you trying to see if you could improve on your lap times as the race went on?
No, it's not boring, to be honest. It's always a good racing mentality. When you have a little gap, you want to increase more and more. And I just want to be perfect as I can. I was made a lot of little mistake with the weight penalty. I mean, I'm missing apexes or something like that, and I want to improve on that in my race. Yeah, just chasing the lap times maybe after 5 or 6 laps. But yes, in the night session, that was a tricky one, because the car is sliding a lot more than the daylight session. So yeah, it was it was more interesting for me, to be honest. But yeah, just keep the car safe and just chasing some lap times, and that's it. Yeah, but it's not boring because one mistake or one left car and everything goes on the wrong side, and that's what I don't need it. So yeah, just be careful, and that's it.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what we were talking about. We were not trying to make you make a mistake, but we were talking about it as in one mistake could force you out of this race. Now, looking a little bit further back to the drivers in behind, quite a few mistakes from your, I said it earlier on, quote-unquote championship rival, whether we can call you that yet after round 2, Timmy Lettinen, after his strong performances in Le Mans. Cost him a lot of time and cost him a couple of positions as well. Are you looking at Timmy yet, or are you just trying to race by yourself, or is that just what you're trying to do the whole time? Are you just trying to race by yourself regardless of what everybody else is doing?
Yeah, I'm just focusing on myself, to be honest, because there is a drop round, and if somebody have a bad race, that could be, disappear, and everything will fine in the next rounds maybe. So yeah, it's nothing for me. I mean, I'm just focusing on myself, maximize the points. Yeah, even challenging myself because the weight penalty is kind of tricky, and yeah, that's it. Just focusing on myself, and yeah, keep it clean, keep it safe, and yeah, I really hope somebody will join for the next race. Next race is Sao Paulo. That's a crazy good track for racing. So yeah, and there is a lot of straight. So I will be, if I'm honest, I will be in the bad side because yeah, okay, yet we don't know which car will be good for the next round, but yeah, it will be interesting because everything can change. So yeah, I'm looking forward.
Yeah, it should be quite an interesting race in Sao Paulo. Of course, 5 more kilos of ballast added for you, Sultan. How much did that affect the car? How much did that ballast affect the car coming from the Mans into Portimao? How much did that really affect the overall balance and how the car drove here this evening?
For example, in the slow corners, there is a lot of understeer compared to the weightless car, but that's the one thing, and the other one is like braking distance. It's increased like 5 meters. In every braking point was 5 meters earlier for me, but that's it. And also the slower top speed, but yeah, that can be solved by a bit wing change or something like that, something gamble thing, because I was changing some of the aspect of the setup, a little bit more gambling in the top speed and the weight and everything. The aero is a very important thing in Sao Paulo too, and it will be hard for me to find a good balance because there is only one straight and that's it. But Sao Paulo is much more mixed characteristic track, so yeah, it will be good. But for the car I think that's the only really bad thing, the slow corners. There are a lot of understeer, a lot of input need. So yeah, I don't like it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is. It's one of those things that you're suffering from success, I think.
Yeah.
It would be described as.
Yeah, absolutely.
Max, have you got anything for Zoltan before he goes and drinks very, very legal, very EC-friendly orange juice after this race?
Yeah, one more quickly, Zoltan. Of course, as you said, you already know Sao Paulo is a very fun track for racing. How do you think things are going to go? Do you reckon it'll be an exciting race? Do you reckon it'll be good?
I think it will be because there is a lot more straight line, so I will have a lot of negative things from the weight penalty. So yeah, it will be harder for me as well. Or I need just more risk in setup, but I don't really need it, to be honest, at the point. So yeah, it will be good. And the track layout was always good for GT racing. So yeah, I'm really looking forward because it's very good. Get good track.
It certainly should be very good. Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening. I think you're going to be the only interview we get tonight. But oh, there we go. I've accidentally dragged and dropped him, but there we go. Thank you very much to Zoltan. That's only something you can really say when we are doing something on a game such as LMGT3 Ultimate, which is getting a big update tomorrow. So get yourselves involved. You can get yourselves involved in the LMGT3 challenge as well, and all the subsequent competitions from from Drivers Club, but from myself or the Global Racing Drivers Club. I've Grand Prix, Global Racing, same thing, isn't it? No, the Global Racing Drivers Club offers a lot of different racing. Of course, we have the LMGT Challenge at the moment, powered by Coach Dave Delta, and brought to you by Driven Minds. Until next time, it is goodbye.